Welcome back, everybody, aboard Blurred Force One with your boys Mo and Lottie. And this is the Supercast. The Supercast, where we talk about all things superhero in our pop culture media. That's movies, TV shows, video games. We talk about the news, do some speculation, all that good nerdy stuff. And before we get into this podcast, do us a favor, get down there, hit like on the video, and or if you're on one of the podcast platforms, give us a good review. 5 stars would be nice, you know. And if you're not subscribed to this podcast or to the channel, hit the subscribe button and hit the notification bell to let you know when we drop new content. So, Lottie, my man, it's post Flash. We're in the post Flash era, right? So we got that to talk about today, man. And of course, we got a bunch of news items. But man, how have you been getting your nerd on this week, man? How you doing?
Man, I tried to play. Well, I'm trying to play the Final Fantasy 16 demo. Has nothing to do with the game has been boring. It's just, man, I've been really like focusing on like losing weight. You know, I've actually lost 25 pounds in the last few months, so
Dang.
I've been focusing on that. I've also finished the latest season of Demon Slayer and the latest season of Vinland Saga. So those are the couple things that I've been doing.
And yet, not watch 1 minute of Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. That's and on it's not Juneteenth, but I'm gonna say on Juneteenth of all days to show no love to Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaurs. Shame, sir, for shame. I might have to take your blurred card, sir. I did actually. That's my nerdy thing. I've been playing Street Fighter, obviously, but I finally finished up the first season of Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur, and it is great. And I'm going to actually do a review of that solo because Lottie didn't watch it. But I highly suggest that if you like Spider-Verse, if you like, just animated superhero things, or if you got like a little one or a little nephew or a niece or whatever that liked Spider-Verse, hook them up with Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. I think they'll really like it. I think it's a great show. So anyway, you guys be on the lookout for that on the channel. So anyway, as I said, we're going to be talking about the Flash Day on the Supercast. But first, we got some news, as we always do, to talk about. It's a bit of a... This is not a dry week. We definitely got some stuff going on, so much so I had to kind of kick some of the smaller things to the side. But these are the things that caught our eye. We're going to talk about the box office. We are in the midst of the Murderer's Row at the beginning of summer, and we got a bunch of, we got a couple superhero things that we're going to talk about how they're doing in the box office. The Incredible Hulk, the rights have seemed to have gone to Disney. What does that mean for the future of the Green Goliath in the Marvel Cinematic Universe? Marvel not going to show up quite so hard at San Diego Comic-Con. What does that mean for the Comic-Con and what Marvel might be talking about this year? And surprise, surprise, the Kraven the Hunter trailer dropped, and it's kind of crazy. So we're gonna review that, and of course, as I said, we're gonna talk all about the Flash. So, Lottie, we got a lot to do. You ready to go?
Yeah.
All right, let's get into it. So it's time to talk box office. We've been box office nerds the last few months, just because we had several comic book things come out in the last, within the last, I guess, 6 or 7 weeks, and so we really liked Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. We love Spider-Verse, Across the Spider-Verse. And, of course, The Flash just came out. So we just want to talk about where they're all at. Lottie, I'm telling you, what do I keep saying every week? What is James Gunn? All he does is win, no matter what. But and I'm going to tell you what, we have got to talk about this. On a weekend that The Flash opened worldwide, on a weekend that Spider-Verse was in its 3rd week, and it's kind of doing its thing, this movie still managed to make $5.2 million with and mind you, with 912 less theaters in America, $5.2 million in America, or in North America, on its 7th week. It's come up, and that is a 26.8% drop from the previous week, right? So the previous week was $7.5 million. So 5.2 million this week, this last weekend. It has passed $822 million. And I remember I said I thought it might top out around, I feel like I said it's 850, but it might have been 835 or 825, something like that. But that it wasn't going to, get to Black Panther Wakanda Forever, which I maintain. But it's at 822 right now, and a 26.8% drop. I mean, come on, Lottie. I mean, it really might make 850. That's okay. That's awesome. Like, Lottie, I mean, what do you think? What did you see this coming?
I see this coming. I'm happy. I'm happy that Guardians is getting the love that it deserves. Because, like I said, I have very rarely have come across people that was like, "Oh, Guardians, it's not a good show." Or a good movie, but still, in my opinion, this movie should have been $1 billion movie. I still think there's some people out there are just going like, I'll just wait till it comes to the Disney Plus, which Disney really needs to learn how to untrain people out of that. Like, they really need to start making it that hey, you're not gonna get this if you don't go and watch it for a few months. You know what I mean?
They literally should do it like they did Avatar 2. Unless it's like clearly a movie that didn't do that well in theaters. If it's a movie that made bank, that thing shouldn't come out on Disney Plus for 6 months.
Yeah.
Do it like Avatar. Make them wait 6 months. And then,
exactly.
You know what I'm saying? But no, it's let me just say, $5.2 million in week 7 in this environment that's fucking phenomenal. I mean, we should not look at it in any way except a win. And God, I at first I wasn't quite sure if it would make 850, but it's literally like 30, 36, 37 million away. It could do it. It could do it, especially we have a lull this week. There's not any real major movies coming out. Indiana Jones is the next major one, and then after that, not any more major movies for a few weeks. Or I think 2 or 3 weeks after that. So, I mean, it could hit 850. So that's good. I love it. I love to see that big W. So, good job, you guys. You guys, and we're gonna keep an eye on that one in the coming weeks. Let's also talk Spider-Verse. Spider-Verse, Lottie, one thing I noticed this week, what they finally did? We finally got actual international numbers for Spider-Verse. And rest assured, everyone who was worried about this, the rest of the world is perfectly fine. There's no craziness and no racism going on because it's almost equal. I think the difference between worldwide international box office and domestic is something like $65 million. So it's not an even split, but it's like it's a fairly close split, and it's almost at 500. Like, it probably today it crossed $500 million, which is like 150 more than the first one made. I think something like that.
Yeah.
And it's not. Let me just say, it's not. The momentum's not stopping. Flash did nothing to stop the momentum. It had a 51.4% drop. It made $27 million in its third weekend. And remember, this is an animated movie. It's not. I mean, obviously, it's not Mario Brothers, which is kind of a phenomenon on its own. It's not Frozen, which is kind of a phenomenon on its own. But it is definitely. It is winning. We can't look at this in any other way except winning. They had $100 million budget to make this movie. It's at 5 times its budget.
It's making its bank. It's making its bank. It's not like not breaking even. It's they broke even. I think they broke even their first weekend. I almost want to say their first weekend they broke even.
They are in profit. Remember, it's 2.5 to 3 times the production budget. They are in profit, and they have been for it. They are at this point they have made almost $200 million in profit. Just
Sony right now.
just off the back of the envelope calculations, and it's
Man,
only going to get more.
remember how in 2019 how Disney was trying to act about Spider-Man and Sony was like, we don't need you. Now look at Sony.
I mean, look, I mean, but they're getting paid both ways, live action and animated. And I'm telling you, look,
and video game.
Yeah, and video games. And look, right now, like I said, it's $4.94 as of the weekend, but by this coming weekend, there's no competition, right? There's just Flash and whatever. But if it stays at this trajectory, which is kind of similar to Guardians, its week to week drops were better, but it's very similar. It had a 54% drop last week, 51.4% drop this week. If it continues that trajectory, it's definitely going to cross 600 million, and they could see as much as 625. Hell, if the environment's right, it could go higher than 625. If you're real bullish on it. This is nothing but a huge dub. Like this is the biggest. I mean, this is probably the biggest dub that Sony Animation has seen in a while, or if at all ever. I mean, like, come on, they are. Look, they're just winning. So all those YouTubers that had those stupid little thumbnails talking about how much of a flop it is. Lottie, do you think they're gonna make any apologies or anything?
Who are these people? Like, these got to be the grifty of the grifters. Like, these got to be the griftiest of the grifters. Because even, like I said, like 2 movies that I know that even so-called toxic fans liked was Guardians 3 and Across the Spider-Verse.
But these are the guys.
You gotta be.
Yeah, these are the guys complaining about how there's not enough white dudes in the movie. Like, it's those guys, but the go woke, go broke crowd. Well, you know what? Spider-Verse is pretty fucking woke. It's a pretty fucking woke movie, and that all they doing is raking in the cash.
What do you mean there's not enough white guys? Spider-Man is
just
white.
Look, hey, it doesn't have to make sense. It just have to make their whiny ass fans feel good about being victims. Like, shit doesn't have to make any fucking sense. Never has to make sense. It just has to make them feel like their superiority is reaffirmed. Just fools. So anyway, enough of those idiots. Spider-Verse rules, and it's just kicking ass. So we're gonna keep up with that. I cannot wait to see where it ends up. I think 625 is definitely in reach. So, and Flash came out this week. We will talk about the box office when we get to the review. But let's just say, not great. So we'll come back to that later. So Lottie, San Diego Comic-Con is coming up in a couple. I think it's at the end of July or early August. It's coming up soon though, and we're all expecting big news from. I'm expecting big news from DC because of the regime change and everything like that. But also we're expecting to hear some stuff from Marvel, right? Well, pump your brakes on that. Just may lower your expectations, because Marvel's not going to have a Hall H presentation this year. Last year they came out and they're talking about the multiverse saga, and they talked about the Avengers and all that. They said all that stuff. Kevin Feige was up there in his hat, walking around with his blazer and tennis shoes on, and just like making us all excited, right? Well, none of that this year. They'll be there. They're just not going to have that big Hall H presentation. Lottie, I feel like this means something, but I wonder what you think this might mean.
Well, them not having this presentation, I mean, we already saw what happened, man. They pushed everything back. Everything is getting pushed back a year. So they're like, let's pump the brakes a little bit on this little projects that we're doing, because honestly, it's like it's sort of like the whole thing with like people are getting mad that they're like, why is Sony not introducing more of their games? I'm like, if the games are not coming out in the next year or two, why the hell would they? Why even talk about it? It's like the same thing with a lot of these movies. A lot of these movies are not coming out until mid to late 2024. Why the fuck even talk about it at this point? Especially some of these movies you've already talked about. The other movies, because you got to think of it. They did that thing 2 years ago, wasn't it?
Well, they presented last year. That's where they talked about Thunderbolts and Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars, and
That was last year? Okay, I thought that was
that
2021.
That was last year.
Okay. Yeah, so they've talked about this. Why would they talk about this again and say, by the way, all this is delayed by a year to 2 years? No, hell no. Hell no. You're already trying to do damage control. You just want to piss people off on top of that? Hell no. Sorry. We'll do like a Marvel. We'll do like a phase 1 through 4 marathon for you guys. We're not. Come on, man. Don't. It's like literally imagine if Sony was like, God of War comes out in 2023, and then in 2023, by the way, guys, let's show you gameplay of God of War that comes out next year. What the fuck? They'll be like, what?
Yeah.
No.
Well, here's another thing that maybe we hadn't really considered just because this news just came out today. I was expecting them to announce the Fantastic Four lineup, like the cast for Fantastic Four. Now there's no Hall H thing. Are they gonna say anything about it at Comic-Con, or are they gonna wait to something to a later date to announce these people? That's I mean, like everybody else, that's literally the only movie where we don't really know. We don't really know who's in it. And so I was really hoping, I was like, oh, great. Comic-Con's like, 4 or 5 weeks from now, we're going to find out. Nope. I'm pretty sure this means that we're not going to find out about Fantastic Four this summer. So that sucks. It doesn't really fucking mean anything, because it's not like they're not filming, as far as I understand, the script's not done. It won't be done until the writer's strike is over. I mean, there's no forward movement. And I think also the writer's strike has something to do with this too, because it's effectively set Marvel back at least 4 or 5 months, in terms of their production schedule. Could be more depending on how long they want this thing to go on. So, yeah, I mean, I think you're right. Why would they talk about anything when they don't have shit to show? Not really. And whatever they do have to show, they're not gonna want to do more than what they already do, is just show production stills here or there. So it sucks, but like I totally understand why they're not gonna do a Hall H thing. So that really means that we only really have DC to look forward to at Comic-Con this year. So they better bring the fucking pain. That's all I know. James Gunn, no pressure, but you better bring it. So anyway, San Diego Comic-Con's kind of coming up pretty soon, so we're going to keep an eye on all the news leading up to that. We'll let you guys know more about that when we're here. So, speaking of Marvel, something amazing and green happened on Disney Plus this week, and it was not She-Hulk Season 2 dropping, unfortunately. It was instead her cousin, at least his first MCU appearance, showing up on the service, because apparently Marvel got the distribution rights back to Incredible Hulk, at least according to Variety. So, Lottie, I mean, I'm sure maybe you were on Disney Plus this week. You saw it show up there. And, I mean, this is just standard contractual shit, as far as I can tell. Standard contractual shit. So, I wonder, and a lot of people have been speculating, does that mean that Marvel can make Hulk stuff now? Make a Hulk movie? Lottie, with zero knowledge of the situation behind the scenes, what do you think?
That'd be awesome if we can get a Hulk movie, because that is the one thing that has been lacking from Marvel. Like, ASAP. Like, we should, like, Hulk, a new Hulk movie should be one of them new movies down the pipeline. Like honestly, X-Men, Hulk. And I don't want to wait till 2030 for a damn Hulk movie. I don't want to wait till I'm about 40 years old and you'll be about 50. No, you know what I mean? Like I will love
Mark Ruffalo will be
like
walking with a cane.
yeah, Mark Ruffalo will be about 60 years old Hulk.
Hey, Old Man Hulk is the jam though. Like not to be funny, but I would love an Old Man Logan movie. It start with the Hulk in it. That'd be dope. But yeah,
It's called God of War. I'm just playing.
uh, I don't know if this means anything. I have to be honest. I went and looked around to try to find any actual news, any real insider information, anything at all besides, hey, now they can play Incredible Hulk on Disney Plus, and I didn't see shit, like at all. Not just a little bit of speculation on social media, and that's it. People jump into some fucking conclusions, but no real meat on these bones, so to speak. And look, this is let me just tell you, this isn't really different than the fact that, for a while Paramount and also for a while Peacock was able to show, Iron Man 1, 2, and Avengers, and Thor, because those were all made by Marvel when they were still an independent studio that had a distribution deal with Paramount and Universal. So to me, this doesn't seem like anything else except, oh, this movie we made like 15 years ago, we can now play this because the distribution contract has basically expired, and I don't see if it's anything more than that. Now I could be wrong, but I need to see proof of that, and the proof to me would be Kevin Feige saying, coming out and saying Hulk smash. And then, a banner coming down and showing, Mark Ruffalo Hulk in, World War Hulk. If that happens, dope. I believe it. Until then, this shit is just, go watch Incredible Hulk on Disney Plus. So that's what I see. So, but you know what? We're gonna keep an open mind, and we will keep looking and see if we can find out anything. And if we do, we will let you guys know. So finally in news, something I wasn't expecting. This was a very pleasant, very pleasant surprise. And that is a Red Band trailer dropped for Kraven the Hunter, which, I mean, we learned, months ago that it was going to be rated R. And I was like, why would you do that to your comic book movie? Like, Lottie, does that make any sense? Like, at all?
I mean, a rated R comic book movie?
A rated R comic book movie starring a Spider-Man villain that most people don't know. Like,
does it make sense? I mean,
does it make dollars is my question. That's the better question. Will it make dollars?
I think so. I think people have been craving this, and I think
that's a good pun.
Yeah, pun intended. But like real talk, I think people have been craving for movies like this, and I think Marvel is kind of dropping the ball in this sense of like they had their opportunity to start making more mature Marvel movies, but they decided not to do it. And it seems like Sony is going to capture that audience because I'm looking at I looked at the trailer and I'm watching the comment section. These people are into this. They're like, this is they're like into it, man. Like I'm seeing people reacting to it, and I'm just shaking my head saying, Marvel, how could you drop this? You know, like because remember we talked about this movie almost 2 years ago. I want to say.
Well, at least we talked about how are they going to get into this, and like, are they doing the anti-hero thing, and how does that make any sense? And I mean, look, I'm going to say straight up, I really like the trailer. I don't know that it has anything to do with Kraven the Hunter as I understand the character.
No.
I don't. I can't see that this is very much a a multiverse, well, not a multiverse, but an alternate universe where someone named Kraven the Hunter that wears something similar to him is not anything like him, as far as I can tell.
I completely agree.
But huge action, and he's basically, what if PETA was, what if the people for the ethical treatment of animals were condensed into one dude who's vegan and kind of kills people that poach animals. It seems to be that, and also Russell Crowe is basically the actual Kraven the Hunter that we would know and understand, maybe.
Yeah.
This trailer has it's if the movie's anything like this, it's like it's a amalgamation of several things. To me, it felt like Kraven's father is like Drykoff from fucking Black Widow. Kraven himself is like the movie Beastmaster, but also maybe a little bit of Beast Boy, maybe. But also, there's some Morbius shit going on. Like, there's the way Morbius sort of gets his powers. There's some of that shit. Like, does he have slight superpowers? Maybe. Someone said like Sony's doing Catwoman all over again, and I was like, don't say that shit. But I mean, the shit is interesting. I thought the action was ridiculous. It's brutal. It was very well laid out. I understood what was happening. There's some kind of story that's supposed to make sense about brothers and an abusive dad and shit like that. I guess. And you know what? Actually, you know what? Not Beast Boy. Vixen. That's what I'm thinking of. Vixen from DC. So, I mean, I'm very interested. We're going to see this anyway, but I'm very, very interested based on the trailer. But I spent a lot of time watching that, sort of laughing out loud and saying like, what is like, are y'all are doing this? We're going to do this. Okay. Oh, I guess we're leaning into this. So I'm with it. I just need to know more about the story, because right now it doesn't seem like a Kraven the Hunter movie. Just based on that trailer. I don't know, Lottie. Am I off base?
No, you're not off base. I completely agree with you. This doesn't feel like Kraven the Hunter. It just feels like Sony's just like, hey, let's find an excuse to make a movie.
Let's turn all of our iconic bad guys into, well, maybe they're okay. Maybe, you know what? They're misunderstood. You know what? Actually, if you look at, Spider-Man's actually the bad guy, and these guys are the good guys. I'm like, can't they just be bad guys? Wait, at this rate, the Sinister Six is just going to be a bunch of guys that are against the establishment for good reasons. They're literally going to be the Flag Smashers. Dr. Octopus is against the tyranny of corporate oppressors. And, Kraven.
And this is the one thing. And this is the one thing I will say that HBO/DC has over all of these studios. They know how to make villain movies and shows. From the Joker to now what we're seeing with the Penguin, they know how to make you interested. They know how to make you hate a character, but also be so entertained watching them. You know what I mean? They found a way, because that's one of the things that I remember. I've always heard when people say, "Oh, why can you never play as the villain in video game?" Because they're like, the villain is hard to tell. I don't know about that. You can tell a villain story. It's just not as easy as telling a hero story, because you got to have the audience hate the character, but also be absolutely entertained by them at the same time.
Yeah.
It's a very thin line. It's a very hard and thin line to do.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't understand Sony's whole push to make their villains be the
I can understand Morbius.
Well, yeah, Morbius is like, he's an on-again, off-again villain. It depends on what's happening. But to literally I understand in the comics Kraven has sort of turned towards good, but that's still it took decades and decades for that to happen. He's
Yeah.
literally supposed to hunt Spider-Man, and I guess in a world with no Spider-Man, what the hell does Kraven the Hunter do? Apparently, he's the Batman of the Savannah or some shit like that. You know, he's
And,
he's the
and
vengeance and the night.
and you know why they probably, here's another reason why they probably decided not to do that. Because Craven's in the video game. So telling the Craven story of him hunting Spider-Man twice in the same year, you know what I mean? I could now I'm thinking about it, it will get redundant. You know what I
Well, I
mean?
mean, it
So
doesn't help that there's literally no Spider-Man for them to hunt. So, I mean, is this setting it up so that he hunts Spider-Man? Like, I understand he's the hero of his own story. I just wonder if they can thread the needle of actually making him a villain at the end of it. That's all, because I don't want him to be a good guy.
me either.
Like, we don't need redemption arcs for every damn bad guy. Just let some of them be bad. Oh, speaking of bad guys, the Rhino, and we didn't really get to see him, but I'm ready for that. I'm ready.
Is the Rhino like a combination of Bane and the Hulk?
I think it's more I think it's more the Lizard, because he took that serum or whatever, he let that serum loose like Bane and the Lizard, and so now he turns into the Rhino. That's the shit I want to see. I'm ready for that. Like that mechanical Rhino shit in Amazing Spider-Man 2, which I like. Again, I liked Amazing Spider-Man 2 a lot, but that I did not care much for the Rhino.
I just hope he doesn't. I just hope he doesn't break. What's it called? Craven's back. First the buck. just don't.
I am looking forward to seeing the Rhino. To me that's a win. That's a a hit, home run as far as like a concept. So I want to see what that is. But you know what? I have high hopes, and let's see another trailer, and that'll put my expectations in the right place. Because this also has the potential to be a fucking train wreck. You know, I felt the same way about Morbius, and again, I like Morbius, but I also know it's not great. So let's hope less Morbius. You know, less of that. So anyway, we'll see. When the next trailer comes out, we will definitely review it and talk about it then. So anyway, that's all of our news for this week. I'm sure we missed some things because, I mean, there's only so much time that we have to talk about news. So if you had a news item you wanted us to talk about, or you had something to say about, the topics we were speaking about, or you just agree, whatever it is, get down to the comment section, leave your thoughts there. And of course, you can always hit us up, supernotfunnyshow@gmail.com or at supernotfunnys1 on Twitter. All right, it's main event time. In this corner, the Flash. In that corner, another Flash. In another corner, for a few minutes, Zod. And also there's a Batman. So it's, yes, the long-awaited, long gestating, 10 years in the making, totally worth the wait, and also totally worth Ezra Miller's antics off screen. The Flash finally zoomed its way into theaters this last weekend. Lottie, we both got a chance to go see it, on Sunday, just to really drink in all of that Flash goodness. And we're here to report what we thought about it. So before we get into that, Lottie, though, let's talk about box office real quick. There's just some, some interesting tidbits. It made $55.5 million. It was projected to make 70. It did not hit its projections. Of all the comic book movies we've seen so far this year, that is not a good trend. Lottie, not a good trend. Not beating estimates, not even most of the time when we say estimates, they usually go over. Nope, didn't even get to them. So yeah, so far I think it's at 100 and let me see if I remember. It's 100 and what was it? 135. It's at 135 million worldwide right now. A relatively even split between domestic and international. And on a budget of $200 million. So I've heard. So Lottie, let's just call it what it is. This thing is gonna flop. Will it Shazam flop, or will it Black Adam flop? What do you think?
Shazam, almost Shazam flop. It's not good. I don't even think it's gonna do Black Adam good. I'm gonna just tell you there are two reasons why this movie is not doing good, man. I'm sorry. The DC, everybody thought they could do it, but people are not having it with Ezra Miller. They're not. I know quite a few people that told me they're not watching the movie. They're like, nope, because they're like, I don't like how somebody like Ezra Miller can still be rewarded for a movie. And I understand the movie was made for him and they can't do it, but still people are looking at it like this, especially even with how they basically fired Henry Cavill on top of that. It's one of those things. There's people are just looking at it like, no, no.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to support a movie where a guy could do like this, and then people are going to. And let's be honest, some of these reviews kind of spat into some people's faces at the same time. Like like one review from a professional critic said, "This movie will make you." It says, and I quote, "This movie will make you forget about Ezra Miller's antics."
That pisses. You know what? I didn't talk about this last week because I kind of wanted to save it for this week. That shit pisses me off. I'm going to say two things. One, there's an awful lot of people that didn't even know this movie existed, was out. People that are nerds, that are in our lane, right? Didn't even know this movie was coming out. I had to tell people, like, oh yeah, you're going to see this? Oh, it's a movie. There's a Flash movie? I didn't know that. So, one, a lot of people didn't even know this shit existed. Two, that whole thing about talking about Ezra Miller and these fucking reviews pisses me off, because what the fuck does Ezra Miller's off-screen antics have to do with whether or not this movie's any good?
Exactly.
Like not a damn thing. There should be no review should mention his fucking off-screen antics.
Yep.
Because we're not reviewing whether or not Ezra Miller is a good person. That's not you know, that has nothing to do with it. This is about a movie review is about whether or not the fucking movie is good. And it pisses me off so much that that's even something to be mentioned. So
yeah,
I mean, and it's like they're poisoning the well. They're poisoning the well. Like, people that might go see it otherwise, they're intentionally at poisoning the well. So yeah, I understand if people are like, I don't want to see it because of what Ezra Miller's been up to. Well, I mean, yeah, because the fucking reviews and everything's fucking talking about that instead of the movie itself. So anyway, I don't want to get heated about it, but that shit just annoys me. Watch the movie for what it is, not for whatever the fuck else has nothing to do with the movie.
Exactly. And then, like I said, on top of that, you know, the whole thing of people are looking at it like, damn, Henry Cavill couldn't get a movie, couldn't get another movie, but Ezra Miller, Flash gets a movie. It's not a good look. Like, the movie is just not a good look. And also, just being honest, man, some of the CGI in that movie was. We're
gonna get to it because we're about to get into the review proper. I want to just talk box office. This movie's gonna flop. It does not deserve to flop. It deserves a hell of a lot better. This movie, out of the last 4 DC movies, it's number 2. It's better than the last 2 that came out. Not as good as the Suicide Squad. I agree. It deserves to do better than it's going to do. There's some structural problems that are related to why it's not going to make its money back, why it's going to flop. And that's just unfortunate. So we're not going to talk about Ezra Miller and what they did and all that's shit. Sorry, doesn't have anything to fucking do about whether or not I like this movie. I mean, I know other people, it might bother them. I get it. That if that's your thing, that's your thing. I'm not going to say no, but it had nothing to do with how I received this movie. So, yeah, we're going to get into, let's just get into the review itself. And I'm just going to say, you know, real quick, so we can sort of get into spoilers kind of fast. I had a damn good time with this movie, and I'm not alone. Let me tell you. Now the theater that was not, it wasn't full. There's a reasonable number of people on a Sunday afternoon. Actually, more than I thought might be there. In the Dolby Theater, so that was the most expensive theater. And absolutely go see this movie in like a good big screen. But I'll tell you what, everyone seemed to have a damn good time in the theater I was in, and Jen, she loved it. Well, I won't say she loved it. She had a great time with it. Like she really enjoyed it. So, and I'll put my name on that. I will say I really liked it. I didn't love it. There are a few things that kind of kept me back from really loving it, and it's mostly to do with second act problems in terms of pacing and story in the second act. But there are a lot of damn good things in this movie that I was all over. The first third of the movie is fucking great. There's great action and cool stuff going on in the first part. I liked Ezra Miller. They really they brought it. In playing two characters really brought their skills as an actor to bear. Loved seeing Michael Keaton again. Loved the interaction with Barry between Michael Keaton and Barry. Loved some of the cameos. I thought Supergirl was awesome, and I hate how little we saw of her in it. And it had an actually good story at the end of it all that made all of this make any sense or make it mean something. But I will say it's the movie. The story is a bit derivative of a bunch of things, and in that sense, it's a fairly predictable story. But I enjoyed the way it played itself out. And I have more to say in spoilers, but I'm going to say I really liked it. I would happily go see this again. So, Lottie, what do you think?
The movie was definitely entertaining. Of the three movies that I've went to the movie theaters and seen recently, is definitely the worst one, and not me. And I won't say worst. That is a
It was
bad
number
word.
3, and
It was
you're
number
also
three.
right about that. Absolutely.
It's Across the Spider-Verse is my number one, and Guardians number two, and this one the movie's number three. But it is definitely, I agree with you. It is the best. It's better than a lot of the recent DC movies I've seen. I was entertained watching the movie. I was actually entertained. It reminded me of a 2010 superhero movie. It
Considering it's been in 10 years in development.
Yeah, it was like I was thoroughly enjoying it. I never felt bored watching the movie. Some movies I have felt like bored, or it's like, God, leave, man. Can we move on a little bit? This movie, I've never felt bored watching it. I was thoroughly entertained through it. Like you said, Ezra Miller's performance of him, of them playing themselves, like, it was. I have to admit, like, you could say whatever you want about the Ezra Miller as a person, but their performance was just was great. I mean, let's be honest. How many people can do that? They did a great job. It's like you said, great seeing Michael Keaton again. Michael Keaton just fell right back into the role like nothing happened. It was like the late 80s, early 90s all over again. Unfortunately, some of the other characters in the movie, you didn't get enough for me to even comment on. Like, Supergirl was
Yes.
Supergirl literally maybe only had I don't even think a page of lines. Like, let's be honest, like probably half a page of lines.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't even really say much, so I don't have enough to even comment on her. And it's the same thing with Zod. It was just his face on a CGI robot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A lot of the stuff that we with the trailers portrayed, we didn't get that much of. You know what I mean? We definitely got more of Michael Keaton than I thought we would. I thought Michael Keaton would maybe be only in the movie for like 10 minutes. He was in it for a good 45 minutes. So
right.
I enjoyed that.
Yeah, I loved how much we got. Now, obviously, the action sequences weren't him, and that's fine. One thing I found about this movie is the criticism that people are leveling at this movie. Not a lot. This is a somewhat divisive movie. I think more people than not are gonna like it, especially the further away you get from online fandom, the farther away you get from the online nerd fandom, the more people are just like it works as a straightforward superhero movie. To be honest, it's not even all that complicated in terms of what the storyline is. Like, Barry wants to save his mom and fucks up the universe, and now he's got to unfuck up the universe with the help of his other self. That's and Batman and Superman, and also Man of Steel still happens. Oh shit, we don't have Superman. It's all fairly straightforward, but people were sort of hung up on some things that to me weren't really a thing. That, like, besides Ezra themselves being, problematic off screen, which seems to be a lot of what there's a lot of people online talking about that. And as I predicted, and they're going to say, oh, it's Ezra is the reason why this doesn't do well. That's not the case at all. I don't think that that's true at all. I think that may be true for like a small percent. Most people don't even know this shit. No, that's not what's going on here. What's going on with the box office is that DC has been making shit. Stuff that I like, but that most people don't give a fuck about. So this is just another in the line of things, They were also bumping up against the cameos. Like, and we'll talk about this in spoilers, but there's some cameos of actors who are no longer with us, and people are just like, it's ghoulish and it's horrible, and I'm just like, is it that is this really a problem? Like,
they're just, let me tell you something, man. People are just saying that because they just want to find a way to be mad at this movie.
Yeah.
These are the same people that stood up in a standing ovation when they saw CGI. What's his name? Stan Lee. Like, come on now. Like,
it's
people.
It's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous, and I'm pretty sure they asked for the permission of the family before they did this. Because if they didn't, we'll hear about it. You know what I mean? It's
to do with like the personal lives of one of the characters, one of the people, and I guess, but like, I don't know if that's something to spend a lot of time being upset about. The other, we'll talk about the bad, supposedly bad CGI, but also supposedly it was done on purpose. And look, I get video gamey CG. I get it. Maybe they didn't have enough time or money or whatever the hell to finish the CG in a certain way. But I'm gonna tell you what, didn't bother me at all. Like at all. When I say I watched obviously when Ezra's on screen with themselves, obviously that's a stand-in and they pasted faces on or something like that. Obviously that's what's happening. Didn't bother me at all. Didn't catch it. Didn't bother me one bit. The chronosphere, the chrono whatever thing that the time travel thing, I thought that was pretty cool, actually. Once I realized what they were going for, I was like, oh, okay, I can expect to see this every time they come back here. And it's fine. It was Polar Express, that's been upgraded to 4K. I was fine with that. So there's places where clearly they're doing green screen or, volume, fights, especially at the end. I'm sorry, I watch these fucking things all the time. I fully expect at the end of every comic book movie, whoever makes it, there's going to be a big old, throwdown up against the green screen. I'm used to it. I'm not thinking about that at all. I just want to know, in the moment, is some shit happening that makes sense within the context of the movie? And as far as that goes, the CG felt very consistent to me. So I don't know, Lottie. Am I being too forgiving of this?
I don't say you're being too forgiving. I didn't. The only CG that threw me off was the beginning because it's just
The
those
part,
babies,
yeah,
man.
we're gonna talk about that and spoil it. But the baby shower, yes, I've got to say so many things about that. I'll just say, baby shower. That's non-spoilery. That's one of my favorite action sequences I've ever seen in anything. Like, you don't. Nobody has to agree with me, but I was intrigued. I was, yeah, I was, just kind of beside myself thinking like this is ridiculous and kind of amazing, but I was also tense in the midst of it because I was like, all right, it's babies though. So I'm watching this whole thing and just watching the way Barry navigates it, and it's so fun and so awesome, and like just kind of thinking about how it works in real time. It's just I'm sorry, no one has to agree with me, but that's one of my favorite action sequences of all time. It's like straight up. Okay, Lottie, you don't have to agree with me.
Yeah, it's just, man, the babies just looked off to me,
Yeah,
man. Like
they
they
did, but I can't. I'm just like I'm fine because like I don't want real babies doing that. I, I didn't want
yeah,
a
yeah, yeah. I'm
single
not
real baby involved in that scene.
like, yeah, like you said, I was not looking for like the babies to look real. It's just it just threw me off watching it because I was like, you can clearly see those are
Yeah,
CGI babies.
they were, but we're bumping up against the CGI babies, but not a dude, jumping off of rubble, going faster than people can see.
Yeah.
No, I had a great time with this movie. I honestly, it pains me to know that it's gonna flop because it shouldn't. If there was any justice when it comes to stuff like this movie would not flop. And Fast X, making its money. No, it would. If there was justice, this would be doing much better. So, I don't think we could say too much more non-spoiler. Just that. I think I had one more thing, that apparently the Flash had different endings. It had 3 different endings, and we'll talk about that, what the ending was and how they changed. But if you want to know anything about how Gunn and Safran had some effect on the way this movie played itself out, and what that might mean for the future, I honestly I think Flash is, as with Ezra Miller's, done, but there's a space for it. I could be. So anyway, Lottie, you ready to talk spoilers? I mean, there's a bunch. As I said, like this movie, it's just fun. It's a funny ass movie in many ways. It does draw on a lot of nostalgia. There's a lot of like, oh, remember this, right? And if this has to be, this is not the last DCEU movie, but if it has to be a send off for the DCEU, it's pretty damn good in that way. We got, spoiler. We knew Ben Affleck was going to be in it. We did not know that Gal Gadot was going to be in it, and I love seeing her. Like way more than the Shazam cameo. I was just happy to see she didn't do anything except lasso somebody and pull some people up. But I like seeing her, and I like seeing Ben, and Ezra interact with her. It was cool. I enjoyed it. That whole little opening sequence of Batman on the highway, dope. I don't know how Batman's fucking alive after all that, but cool. Like they just that opening 15 or 20 minutes are just like perfectly done comic book movie shit, as far as I'm concerned. Lottie, the whole thing with with Barry, sort of stumbling into time travel, felt very convenient to me. But I'm fine with it. But it felt very convenient. I don't know. What do you think?
I'm gonna tell you this straight up, and I've been thinking about this for the last few days. in my opinion, this was a Superman movie. This was, I mean, not a Superman. This was supposed to be a Flash / Superman movie. Like, I really feel that way from watching it. From one of the scenes that you've already like referenced to before, and what the actual, in my opinion, the true message behind the movie, not the message that the movie tried to make, but the actual true message. This was supposed to be a movie where it was called a Flash movie, but underneath it was actually a Superman movie. Do you want me to tell you why I feel that
I
way?
was gonna say, explain that.
Okay. Because this is the reason why. Because in my opinion, the whole like thing of Ezra Miller going back, not Ezra Miller, Flash going back to save his mom, and his mom being alive is the reason why this universe is fucked. And that's a stretch. That is a
Yeah. Oh
very
well,
big.
the whole time travel explanation was bullshit.
Exactly. That's why I
I
said it's
remember
a
listening
stretch.
to. I'm sitting up here listening to Bruce Wayne being like, "Well, it's simple. You went back and everyone thinks it's multiverse," and I was like, "Dude, you could have just said it was magic, and that'd have been as clear and as sensible as what the shit you just said. Like all this stuff about spaghetti and nexus or whatever focus points or whatever the fuck it was." I just sat there and listened to it, and I was like, you just you just said some shit. That's you don't know. You just said some shit, but we're gonna go with it. It's just crazy.
And that's why I feel like in my opinion, because we know for a fact Zack Snyder, Superman was supposed to become evil, and his story of the Justice League and his DCEU, Superman was supposed to eventually become evil. I think the original story and plot of this movie, Flash, Superman went evil and basically killed or beat the entire Justice League, and the last only person to survive was the Flash. And as he was running away, trying to get away from Superman, he ended up realizing he can go back in time. So what he did, he went back in time to prevent Kal-El from even coming to the planet Earth. And from him doing that, he thought, "Oh well, we can stop Zod. I just need the Justice League." And he assembles like a makeshift Justice League. They lose, but then he's like, "Okay, we don't need Superman. We can get his cousin Kara. We can beat Zod that way." Nope, it doesn't work. The more and more, because that's from what I was like. I'm watching this movie. I'm like, I'm actually thinking this movie is not about you going back, your mom dying is what saved the universe. I think if Superman was around, if Kal-El made it to Earth, none of your mom will live and everything will be just fine. That is the true meaning of this. So I think the whole point was that Superman has to exist in a timeline for it to be a healthy timeline. And that's where that whole thing of them showing the different Superman, of them killing or whatever those things were, those monsters or whatever. And that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, we're gonna get to the end in a little bit, but I don't know. This is, since it's based on Flashpoint. I mean, Flashpoint really is about Flash fucking up everything because he doesn't let his mom be killed. And this is all about but I mean, every time travel story is more or less about, you can't really do anything about the past. It is what it is. And so, you got to move on. And this whole movie was really about older Barry having to, he stumbles onto the ability to save his dad, and his mom takes it and realizes that, he can't just fuck around with the past. He's got to accept that the past has happened. As Bruce says, made us who we are. We are who we are because of what things that happened in our past. And then to move forward. And younger Barry doesn't really know or get that. He's still he's the privileged kid. He's the kid that had everything. and he doesn't understand what loss is. He doesn't understand any of that stuff, and that's why he's so bad at accepting the fact that they fail at the very end. You know that, and that's why he becomes this, not Reverse Flash. He's not even an evil Flash. He's just a damaged Flash that wants to spend eternity trying to fix a problem that will never be fixed. He is trying to, he broke a vase into 1,000 pieces, and he keeps trying to gather them all up and super glue them together, but they'll never be the vase that he remembers.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, at the core of it, that's basically the journey that Barry's on. The two Barrys are on, and in that sense, the movie works really well at it. You know, it really works well at exposing the differences between Barry as an 18-year-old and Barry as a 20-something-year-old. You know, and the things that the Barry that had tragic loss experience, why he's a hero, why he'll always be a hero. You know, Bruce is like, why would you stick around to help us? And he's like, because I want to save the world when my mom's alive. He really just wants to save people from shit he knows is horrible.
Yeah.
So, and then we know he's a hero because he's depowered for part of the movie. And he still gets in harm's way, still makes the right choice to save, Kara, right? And even influences her to really decide to fight for Earth, even though the Earthlings, humans, had imprisoned her for years. So it's, I mean, as far as that goes, part of the reason why this movie works at all is that it earns its superhero shit. The superhero stuff that happens, it earns them through narrative, and it's not just tacked on shit. And I enjoyed it for that aspect. Let's talk about Michael Keaton, dude. His Old Man Batman. I didn't know I wanted to see Old Man Batman so much. Just him go in his Birkenstocks, trying to jump on Barry, actually hitting Barry a lot, and then just like young Barry just sort of doing his, "Oh, I'm too fast for you" thing. I loved it, and then just sits down to make spaghetti right afterward. I thought Keaton was great.
Yeah. He was basically a ninja.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty spry for a 70-year-old dude. I mean, obviously, again, he didn't do his stunts, but his Batman is just like, there's a part that really kind of underscored who this Bruce Wayne was, and it's when he's back at Wayne Manor. He's in the bathroom. He's stitching himself up, right? And he looks at himself in the mirror, and he kind of does this smug little smile. And I'm like, motherfucker, you're enjoying this. You just needed a reason to get your ass out and put the suit back on. Like,
yeah.
I was like, dude, okay, I see you. You would do this for free. If you just needed an excuse to get the hell out and do something.
Yeah.
And just to see him later on stand in the pocket the way Batman does. Like he literally stood in the pocket fighting a Kryptonian that wore his like just straight spashed him, but he stuck around on him. And I'm just like, that's Bruce. That's absolutely Bruce. It doesn't matter what Bruce you're looking at. That's the Bruce we know.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's just other parts. He's fun in all of his scenes. And you also know, I don't give a damn how many people got guns. I'm kicking the shit out of all of you. And you knew it was going down. So just so glad to see him again. Were there anything, that stood out to you about Keaton and like what he was doing?
Definitely, this movie shows you how far they have gotten with VFX, cameras, and stunts, because just in general, because remember, he could even move his damn neck.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
yeah, he just kicked ass.
Yeah.
I'm just like, how are you doing this? Like, even Ben Affleck's version of the character had been like, that's too much, man. You're you're going too hard. Stop.
Ben Affleck's Batman just does
He
not care about property damage.
Yeah, he was cool too. I did like the action sequence. Again, how is
Yeah.
he not dead? But you know what? Fine, I accept it. I will say, I had some nitpicks with. I don't even call it nitpicks. There are some things that kind of ran up again. I thought the second act kind of dragged a bit. Because this is just a problem with superhero movies and movies in general, but superhero movies in particular. The second act is always first act is like, ooh, there's a lot of action and we're setting up the story. Cool. Second act, let me pause and explain everything you need to know so that the third act makes sense.
Yeah.
And they did that, even though they didn't do an info dump, but there was just a bit too much of like, oh, let's walk here, let's drive here, let's go here, and we're figuring things out. And they even did like the Black Widow will break somebody out of prison thing. And, the second act was just, it was for character development and I appreciated it. But there was just so much high octane stuff happening in the first act. And it just kind of screeched to a halt in the second act. And then if there's like, that really bumped up against me. And I wasn't bored. I was just like, well, this pace really slacked off. Just because Barry lost his damn powers doesn't mean that the movie has to.
Yeah, I do have to agree. That was a little slow. That I was like, damn, I didn't know he lost his powers.
Yeah. I mean, him losing his powers, I'm just like, this is a little too parallel to what the movie's doing, but okay. We'll work through it. Also, and I actually think this is more unforgivable than the pace change, is how dare you introduce Supergirl and she is badass. She kicks. I mean, I loved every second she was on scene. From the moment she was introduced, every little bit she did at all, I loved it. And I was like, you motherfuckers, you're gonna kill her? Like she's on the screen 10 minutes, maybe?
Yeah.
I like criminal how they just like introduced her and did cool stuff, and that's that. Second of all, criminal how little Michael Shannon is in this movie. Are you kidding me? There's a big existential threat, and they didn't even try to run up against. I understand he knew what was going on, but like he's just like the end boss, in another castle somewhere else, and like he's just in it for not even 10 minutes, just to get punched in the face a few times, swat it with a big old club, and then stab Kara 73 times. Like, how could you bring Michael Shannon back just for that? That's unforgivable to me.
Yeah, it's like I said, there's a lot of parts of the movie that I wish they would have done a little bit of a better job. Because, like I said, I was surprised that Michael Keaton was in the movie as long as he was. But, like you said, Supergirl, 15 minutes at most. Like maybe like you said, Zod literally was like a paragraph of lines. That's
He didn't even get to deliver his you grew up on a farm line. Like,
exactly.
Like, there are so many opportunities for more from his character. Like, I almost feel like it's disrespectful to Michael Shannon what they did with that character. Which doesn't mean, like, it doesn't diminish my enjoyment of the movie. I just literally was just like, I want more. You guys, y'all put this delicious meal in front of me, and then you only let me have a few bites, and then that's it. Like, don't do that. There's some plot holes in here too, like little things that if you think too hard about them, you're like, wait a minute now, hold on. I kept hearing people be like, if you can go back in time, why wouldn't you just go see who the hell killed your mom? Who killed your mom?
Exactly. That was the honestly, that was the biggest plot hole that I'm just like I'm not gonna even attempt to think about because all that is going to do is just make me just you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Just like nah.
like what?
Nah, I'm not gonna take the bait.
You're just like, just go see. You don't even have to stop him. Okay, great. She has to die. Can you at least see who this motherfucker is?
Yeah.
Just go check it out. Didn't do that.
Biggest mysteries. It could, I mean, that's what I was like. Can you take a picture? I mean, maybe.
Anything. I
Would
mean,
it? Don't you think that would not change the thing? You know,
yeah.
because you can literally slow down time and just be like, snip.
That's the other thing. The whole explanation of time travel and the butterfly effect and shit like that. It's dumb, but they're going with it in the movie. So literally, there's no way that Barry was ever going back to the DCU. It was the moment old Barry knocked him out of the timeline into the timeline, he would never come back to the regular DCU because they literally were like, if you change anything, any changes you make here are necessarily going to alter the events, and then you're going to get weird things happening. So just him being in that other universe probably was enough to change things subtly, right?
Mm-hmm.
But unless he literally just went and caught himself and kicked himself back into the Speed Force, there's no way he wasn't going to not change the universe, change the future. And I watched the end, and look, the ending made sense to me. Yes, he got his dad off. He couldn't save his mom, but he got his dad off. And I'm like, but aren't those things related? Isn't the death of your mom and the imprisonment of your dad related to each other? Like, so
Yeah.
you made a change, and it's still going to change the universe.
Yeah.
It's just stuff like that, Here's another one, Lottie. How can old Barry knock, the DCEU's Barry out of the time bowl if in the future he sacrifices himself to himself? So all that shit that was going on in the time bowl, all that stuff went away. Remember they were having the clash of the universes and everything. All that stuff went away because young Barry sacrificed himself to old Barry, his future self.
Yeah.
So technically, if that happened, doesn't that mean that old Barry wouldn't be around to knock Flash out of the time bowl?
No, because they exist out of time. In that moment,
But if
Barry,
that's the case, how on earth, like if within the time bowl times, everything's different, like existence, whatever is different. Two of him can exist at once. I accept that because it's time travel. What I don't accept is the fact that when he stabbed himself, younger one got in the way and got stabbed, older one disappeared. So they're causally linked. If they're causally linked, then that means that in the future when he dies, right, old Barry couldn't be alive to go back to interfere. He's erased himself. He has erased himself from history, from any of that stuff, because he died when he was young. That's all I'm saying. None of that should have. Look, I'm not saying. Look, it doesn't change the movie. Just something I was thinking about. Like, it's maybe that couldn't have happened. But,
I mean, this is what happens when you mess with time. Because when you mess
where's
with
the TVA when we need them? They need to come in here and prune this fucking timeline.
when you mess with time, stuff like that happens. You
Yeah.
start, it's like you said, you get shit like that where it's like, wait, hold up. If that's true, then this should be true, and that's true, then that should be
Yeah.
true. Yeah, it begins to get out of
You
control.
start thinking too hard, and you're like, you know what? This is a comic book movie. I should stop.
Yeah.
I should just stop thinking too hard about this. there's another part I really liked in this movie's very funny, but the part that I really enjoyed Barry losing his powers and then like I'm gonna run and he's just running in a circle. That was funny. Um, but a part that really got me good was the whole college, apartments uh, talk about who's really starred in Back to the Future, and when Barry really realized he fucked everything up, and when he was like, "Wait a minute, I broke the world so hard that Michael J. Fox was not in Back to the Future," and then there's such like this cascade. Oh no, Michael J. Fox was in this movie, and then Kevin Bacon was in Top Gun, and so all that's I was like, that's hilarious. It's more hilarious if you were an '80s kid, but still, that's all that shit was. I was like, that's great, especially because like almost literally this movie's just like grabbing from different time travel, movies.
Hmm.
It's part
Yeah.
like part of it's Back to the Future, part of it is Groundhog Day, part of it is that movie Edge of Tomorrow that with Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of all of that stuff, which isn't bad. I'm not saying that for as a knock. It works, but it definitely is not doing anything new, which maybe is another. I don't even want to call it a complaint. This is a nitpick of mine. It's really that this movie is very predictable. Not the action sequence is not so much, but very predictable. Like where this movie was going. Like I'm literally when young Barry got introduced, Jennifer looked at me. She's like, "He's gonna be the bad guy, isn't he?" And I was like, "Probably, probably." And there you go. There he was.
Yep.
So it's. I mean, I think at the end of the day, and let's talk one last thing before we end. The incursions at the end, like at the very end, the billiard ball incursions that were happening. This is where we were talking about people being like bothered by the cameos of. So they were bothered by Christopher Reeve, George Reeves, the '50s Superman, and Adam West. So they showed all of these people. I didn't care about any of that shit. Personally, I thought it was just cool. I thought it was pretty cool. Like, okay, cool. Campy Batman, old school Superman, the iconic '70s Superman. All of these people just kind of like showing up. And then we got Nick Cage. He was supposed to be Superman, but he never got to be Superman.
Yeah.
Fighting a big old spider. Like, and I knew what the fuck that was about because I had heard the stories about the movie that they were trying to make that they never ended up making, the Superman movie, Superman Lives. And so I was like, cool, that's dope. I thought it was if you're gonna do shit like that, go all in on that. And I thought it was a cool little sequence. But I also have to say, of all the multiverse movies, this may be not the worst at being a multiverse movie. Am I wrong about that?
Yeah.
I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Or am I right?
Well, you're right. It's definitely not near as good as
It's not even as good
across
as
the Spider-Verse.
It's not even as good. Well, I'm talking about it's not even as good as Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Like, and I'm not in terms. I think Multiverse of Madness is a better movie, generally speaking, but also just in terms of its doing multiverse stuff. I don't think this is one that's as good. Probably because it spends all the time in one universe. But I still thought that stuff was cool, and of course the final stinger where we find out that, oh shit, he's not in the DCU anymore because Bruce Wayne is now George Clooney. From Batman and what was it, Batman and Robin?
Yes. Jesus.
And he's just like, who the fuck are you? was like,
Man, people,
I laughed.
every
I
that
clapped.
just pissed everybody
I
off. They was
know.
just like,
People
wow.
in my theater loved it. I like that. I was like, that okay. I didn't see that coming. That's awesome, and I love it. I know this is going nowhere, but that's cool. I was like, cool. Like that, I'm with it. And apparently, James Gunn and Peter Safran made that happen to kind of, just something fun because the other ideas they had for the ending were gonna maybe promise some things about the DC universe that are definitely not gonna happen. So that was kind of
Yeah,
their way of fixing that. So yeah, and also there's that horrible post credit scene that I fucking hated. Like
yeah.
if there's
I'm mad
anything
that
in
I
this
stayed for that.
if there's anything in this movie that I fucking hated, like I didn't hate anything else except that post credit scene. That post credit scene was one of the worst damn comic book post credit scenes ever. Um, Not being hyperbolic, it was useless. And I'm fucking mad that I waited to the end of the movie to see it. Like,
Yeah, because that those credits took a while, man.
yeah, it took a long ass time for God bless him, Jason Momoa to do fuck all that had nothing to do with anything. Like, just, just terrible. So they should be ashamed. I'd rather that they had no damn post credit scene. Anyway, I think we covered everything. I think we
Yeah,
covered everything. I thought the movie was quite good. I'm gonna watch it again, definitely. And it's just unfortunate. Like I think most people, they're gonna catch it on streaming, but it is not gonna make its money. So, Lottie, any last thoughts?
man. I really think Henry Cavill should have been in this movie. I really think he it was just a glaring hole. In my opinion, that was one of the things that could have really done this movie justice. But who knows? What am I talking about? Because Henry Cavill's little cameo didn't save Black Adam.
Yeah.
But him
Well, yeah.
actually, but I think maybe him being actually in the movie. You know what I mean? Like it would have been really cool if like his like Flash went back and somehow got Cal to come to Earth and Superman saved Kara from
Well, that's
dying.
the
Like,
problem. That's the problem in the movie. Superman's dead, so there's no
yeah, I
save.
know that. I
But
know. It's just it would have been like somehow, some way. I just wish Henry Cavill Superman was in this movie.
well,
I
and
really wish.
there's a reason why he wasn't in there because they knew as soon James Gunn and Peter Safran when they got in, they weren't going to use him. It was already it already been set in that they were DC wasn't using him anyway, but they weren't going to use him. And so there was no reason to promise, to tease something that would never come to be. And I think that was the right call. Like I would have been pissed, absolutely pissed if at the end of this movie they had, Henry Cavill and Ben Affleck up there on the, hanging out with the Flash. I'm like, bitches, this shit ain't going nowhere. How dare you? So, yeah, that's, I think they did as well as they could with what they had, and it turned out pretty good. It's just not gonna be successful. So, anyway, those are our long spoiler thoughts about this movie. What did you guys think about The Flash? And what did you think about what we had to say? Get down to the comment section, leave your thoughts there. And of course, you can always hit us up, supernotfunnyshow@gmail.com or at supernotfunnys1 on Twitter. And while you're down there, do us a favor, hit like on this video, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, all that good stuff. Helps with the algorithm so that more people see this channel, see these videos. So you know what? Do us a solid, help us grow this channel. And of course, I can't do the Supercast by myself. Lottie helps me out tremendously. So Lottie, where can they reach you on your social media?
Oh, yeah, you can always find me on my Instagram, which is Anukinihun. Again, it's Anukinihun, ANUKINIHUN. Again, it's ANUKINIHUN. And of course, you can find me on my YouTube channel, which is Kinihun25. If you have some time, leave a like, follow, subscription, or a comment.
Yeah, you guys get over there, show Lottie some love. While you're showing us some love. So, hey, it's been the 106th episode of the Supercast. Thanks for joining us. We really do appreciate you guys. Tell your friends about us. Tell anyone who likes to talk about nerdy stuff, superhero stuff, to come check us out. We welcome all people. So next week, we're going to see what that secret invasion is all about. And we're going to, preview. There's a bunch of things that are coming out later in the summer. We're going to preview all of that. And maybe even we'll get Lottie to watch one episode of Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. We'll see. We'll see if that can happen. So until then, I've been Mo, your comment extraordinaire on all things pop culture, joined by the anime expert, video game designer, and lover of all things superhero, my good friend Lottie. And we'll see you guys on the other side of the thread. Peace.
Peace.